Initial D never really ended, it changed generations, it impacted generations in various ways like music, taste in cars, you fucking name it. Now, it started in the 90s on a Japanese mountain road, and it came back through YouTube memes. You know, we've all heard the Deja Vu Eurobeat song, and now it's all over TikTok, and everyone's proud of their JDM cars. Regardless of what it is, it could be a Honda NSX or it could even be a Mitsubishi Eclipse, the front wheel drive one. Now, how does a story about a tofu delivery driver come back constantly? In 1995, during a time when Japan's economy was recovering from the bubble collapse, street racing culture was quietly thriving in the mountains. The creator Shuichi Shiengo, I hope I read that right, wasn't trying to create a superhero story. He created something grounded, a kid, a part-time job, a rural mountain town with an old hatchback. The story wasn't about fame, it wasn't about money, it wasn't even about being the best. It was about repetition, discipline, improvement, and most importantly, growth. The car Takumi Fujiwara was driving wasn't a sports car, wasn't a hypercar, wasn't even a supercar. It was a Toyota A86. It was old, underpowered, lightweight, simple, and it was most importantly an economy car. And that's the point. The A86 represents something important: skill over status. In a world where car culture often revolves around horsepower and money, Initial D made a slow car legendary. A message that should reside with everyone today, to this point. When we first meet Takumi Fujiwara, he doesn't dream of racing, he just delivers tofu because his dad told him so. He didn't really like driving, he doesn't brag about knowing how to drift, he doesn't chase attention, he doesn't even really care. He drives because his dad tells him so. He got his driver's license and he's fairly happy to get on with his talking stage with... I forgot her name. But every night, driving those mountains, he's building skill, unintentionally. This learning circle that he's doing, it's unintentional, but it's raw potential. What this means, I'm pretty sure everyone has seen the first stage of Initial D, at least I hope so. It was a BMW, but I didn't even catch what it was. It was a BMW, but what specifically, I don't know. I'm fucking up. Now, the first stage of Initial D represents talent without effort. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is not really talent, because Takumi knew how to drive, he knew how to drift before it became talent. He had to work hard to really learn the technique of driving without spilling the water in his cup that his dad put up for him. But that way of teaching his son, Bunta, teaching his son how to drive like him, showed that he worked for this type of skill. It wasn't really talent because it wasn't something he was born with. You see what I'm getting at here? Now, talent without effort, it's what I'm trying to get at is he had the knowledge of how to go fast, but on his own, he didn't know how to race, he just knew how to go fast and smoothly. And as we've seen in the first stage, where he was being told to race RX-7s and GTRs, that he was genuinely good at what his father taught him, without him being present, now that I think about it. But he didn't even like it. He always complained, well, it wasn't always, but he was complaining about racing. He didn't like it, or that's at least what he said so. He wasn't even interested, he didn't even care. Now at the last race, where he was racing Keisuke Takahashi, was Keisuke lost to Takumi, and he crashed out at him, rightfully so, to be honest. About his talk that maybe you do like driving, but you don't even notice it, and how does someone that doesn't like driving not even know how to drift? And that realization on its own proves that, well, maybe Takumi does like driving, as he stated so himself. And that represents the first stage of growth, interest. Going on to second stage is it's the representation of where you realize that talent just isn't enough and you have to level up, in a sense. We've seen this when in the first race he races in Mount Akina again. He wins, but it just doesn't feel satisfying anymore. It's just like, yeah, it is what it is. I've won again and again and again. That win against Lancer Evo 3, I'm pretty sure it was, it wasn't satisfying. It was just, oh my god, another win. Then he goes off to race another Lancer Evo, but on someone else's turf. He loses, his engine's blown. Thankfully, Bunta was saving up for a new engine through Takumi's bank account, I should say. I'm not sure if it was a bank account or not, but I'll just fix myself here with some dialogue if I'm saying something wrong. It represents that talent isn't enough, that you should have to put more time and effort and really focus on leveling up if you want to keep going onward with that way of life, I should say. Because he chose to race, he noticed that he enjoys it now. Sure, I'm just getting at here with second stage. Talent isn't enough. Takumi realized it. And yeah. Going on to third stage now, although it was a movie, there's not really much to be said here. However, it's also a very important part of the story where he has a choice now. He graduated from high school or secondary school, I don't know where you're watching this. Regardless, where he has to choose what to do with himself now. He got an invitation by the Takahashi brothers to join their private project, Project D. Well, he rematches the Lancer Evo on his home turf again, this time winning. This is the part where it's not really a must anymore, it's his intention to drive, that all he wants to do in his life is drive, be faster than the next guy, as he stated himself. Long story short, third stage is where you choose whether to stay in the same place or to improve, to grow. Going on to fourth stage now, this is the stage where one word to describe it would be integration, where he starts training, thinking of strategies, traveling and structuring his way of driving to be the best street racer there is. This is the stage where Initial D stops being about, well, local pride, but more of a legacy. As I hope you've watched the Initial D anime yourself, or at least got this far into the anime. This is also the stage where Initial D becomes, well, street racing in Initial D becomes competitive rather than just some weekend fun, I suppose you could call it that. Going back on Initial D's storyline, it's still, it has the feeling, the closest feeling to stage 1, where it's not only competitive, very competitive in fact, but it's also still the same Takumi we knew and loved in the first stage of Initial D. We still see Itsuki going around with girls, or at least trying to. His old buddies from back in Akina, still doing the same old. Now, growth doesn't mean ascending from everyone behind you, it's more of personal growth, as I hope you've noticed by now. Coming on now to the last stage of Initial D, where we're getting close to the end. By the end of Initial D, Takumi isn't proving himself anymore. He understands perfectly who he is. He's a street racer. He's not flashy, he's not loud. He doesn't chase validation, he just drives. Because he chose to do so. And that's powerful. This is the stage where you notice that maturity isn't about winning, it's more about knowing yourself. And of course, in typical anime fashion, we had to finish Initial D in a loud bang. Takumi's engine blows again with the one final race that not even Ryosuke would have thought that Takumi would have won. It's just he himself knew that the race would just be the one final one to finish off the Project D, although Takumi won again. Even in that race, it took everything, that being, well, the engine being blown again, but he won, and no one will take that away from him. Even in real life, that was in fact real. As I stated in the beginning, Initial D didn't stay in the 90s, it explodes. It comes back. It exploded back in the 2010s, but it keeps coming back time and time and time and time again. Even though I've only watched it recently, I finished it last year and I'm rewatching it like the third time now. I've heard and I've seen Initial. Well, I haven't seen. I've heard of Initial D basically almost all my life now. Shut up. And when TikTok came back, it probably got everyone on to Initial D the same way that it got me into Initial D. We've all seen, well, the drift edits in general, just the music, everything that's right with Initial D we've seen on TikTok and thought to ourselves, yeah, I really want to watch that. And even sim racers. Hell, I even bought my own sim racing setup myself. Where am I getting at? Initial D also inspired people to go out and drive and chase dreams, because, as spoilers, if you haven't finished 5th stage, Project D was Project Dream. To keep dreaming and to keep them dreams alive, to pursue your dreams regardless of what it is. In their case, it was, well, racing, street racing, illegal, fucking hell, I can't speak. Hence, through the wave of inspiration to, well, not only watch it, but once people watched it, it kind of exploded in a way that it even changed a lot of people's taste in cars. It did mine, that's for sure. Changed people's taste in music, even got people to buy, well, sim racing setups just to drive their dream cars, regardless of how expensive or cheap they are. And hence, that's how I think personally Initial D became so generational. See, truth be told, I wasn't even born when Initial D aired, but somehow it found me. Now, how it got to me and how it changed me personally was, as I mentioned earlier, it changed my taste in cars. I used to be the type of person that would want a Mercedes. I didn't even know which one, as long as it was a white Mercedes. It changed my taste in music, especially. There's not a day, well, that might be a lie. There's just this kind of way for me to just listen to Eurobeat constantly and for it to constantly find me regardless of where I am. I could be at work, I could be, well, chilling, doing anything else, but it could just turn on. Initial D just pops into my head. And it also appealed that, well, I'd rather have more skill than appeal. I would rather be good at one thing, like Takumi was, driving, than having so much luxurious stuff without even actually needing it, I could say that. And well, even driving now after finishing Initial D, in fact, it feels so much different. Although I still drive responsibly, but it's different. I can't really describe it, but if you know, is all I can really say. But one thing you can say for sure, Initial D never really ended. It kept finding new drivers. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Bye.